Morning. I'd like to call the Kankakee County Board meeting to order for October 11th. Today's invocation is from Tinker Parker.
Gracious God, we thank you for this lovely morning and the magnificent colors of fall you have blessed us with. And by bringing this board together and asking for your blessings for those in attendance and for those who could not be here today. You have blessed us by bringing together caring people who work as a team for the welfare of our county. May we lead through humility and love, integrity and ethics. We pray that you guide us always. Strengthen us as we make tough decisions. Enable us to think and strategize in ways that will achieve great results. Give us clarity to effectively tackle each part of today's agenda. Reveal problem areas and show us the best solution that will apply. We pray today for all of our leaders, nations, states, townships, and counties. Watch over all of those who protect and serve our community. Keep them safe from harm, Lord. During this turbulent time, make us people whose word can be trusted and who's faithful in love to you, our families, and our neighbors. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the
United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Hess. Present. Mr. Tholen. Present. Mrs. Polk.
Present.
Mr. Snipes. Present. Mr. Seroy.
Present.
Mr. Lear. Present. Mrs. Weber. Present. Mrs. Peters. Mrs. Parker.
Present.
Mr. Fairfield. Present. Mr. Carrico. Present. Mr. Eckhoff. Present. Mr. Swanson. Mr. Featherling. Mr. Donnell. Present. Mr. Miller. Present. Mr. Long. Present. Mr. Kirkstra. Present. Mr. Hunter. Present. Ms. Bryan. Mr. Collins. Ms. Hudson. Present. Mr. Smith. Present. Mr. Alexander Hildebrand. Present. Mr. Gowler. Mr. Raymond. Present. Ms. Foster. Present. Mr. Wheeler.
Present.
We have a quorum.
We have a quorum. No public commentary today. It's like no vacancy appointments presentation. We have LaDonna Russell and Monica Lowe. It's not Lau, it's Lowe, from Kankakee Workforce Services. So we haven't heard from you guys in a while. Invited them in and thought you might give us an update. I appreciate it. Up over here?
Sure.
Yeah.
I was just gonna ask you. Oh, good. I can see my PowerPoint. Good morning. My name is LaDonna Russell. I'm the Executive Director of the Grundy Livingston Kankakee Workforce Board. I'm here just to talk a little bit about workforce services within Kankakee County. So, next slide, please. Talk a little bit about what is the Workforce Board. So the Grundy Livingston Kankakee Workforce Board is a not-for-profit that is governed by a board of volunteers. We serve 3 counties: Grundy County, Livingston County, and Kankakee County. We actually oversee and provide administrative oversight for a federal program called the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act that is funded, like I said, by the Department of Labor. Those funds come to the state of Illinois, and then the Kankakee County is actually the fiscal agent of those funds. So we, this year, our program year starts July 1st. So this year we got $1.6 million. You can see the different funding amounts. In PY20, we got $2.1 million. Just wanted to show that in the last 2 years, we have taken a reduction of $535,000. But we are still mighty and great and do great things. And Monica is going to be talking about actual services that are provided within the county. But as I said, the county's a fiscal agent and the board provides oversight. We work on partnerships. So we work with our community colleges, with our high schools, with Economic Alliance. The board is actually co-located at the Executive Center. So we talk about workforce services for employers, how to ensure employers have the workforce they need. I look for grant opportunities for workforce services. So I write the grants and try. Sometimes I'm successful, sometimes I'm not, just like anything. So just I just wrote one this past spring. It's not for Kankakee County, but it was in Grundy County. So a local employer is doing some training, and we were awarded about $400,000 for that training for that employer. So as I see the need, I will find opportunities, and because we know funding is tight. Like I said, these are grant funds. So this has, that are funding workforce services in the county. So I'm actually going to turn it over to Monica to talk about what services are provided. Just to say, the board doesn't provide services. We're our own not-for-profit. I always say we're kind of like a United Way. We contract out and procure their services. So there's contracts that are awarded. The contract is actually awarded here in Kankakee County to KCC, and they fund the Kankakee Workforce Services office that is located within the North Extension campus, so over there in Bradley. I'll turn it over. Thank you.
Could you do the next slide, please? Oh, there we go. Thank you. Good morning. I'm Monica Lowe with Kankakee Workforce Services, and just to provide you some information, if you have job seekers in your area or employers, so maybe it's new, maybe it's just a refresher for you for what services are available. For individuals, think of it as two different levels of services. Any job seeker who needs assistance can come to our facility and get the help they need. They can use our resource room to work on their resume, do their job search, apply for unemployment. They could also make an appointment for a mock interview, or we also have some basic computer classes. So if you have people in your areas that are job seeking, you can refer them to our office for assistance. Level 2 would be a little bit more intensive if people are looking for training in order to get back into the workforce or enter the workforce. That requires a little bit more intensive application. So level 1 is for everyone. Level 2, where you're wanting some funding, requires a little bit more intensive application, but those services are available. Work experience this year is mainly focused just on our youth program due to the funding cuts that we took. That's kind of where the need is the most for that. So we're trying this year a little bit more to try to provide work experience for youth that is more aligned with the goals that they have. So for example, one that we're currently doing for a youth is attending welding training, and we were able to place him in a manufacturing facility where he can do some learning of the different aspects of welding. So that's a good use of work experience in that case. Some highlights of what we did training on this year. Most of our training dollars were spent on healthcare and CDL, obviously reflecting what's going on in the workforce. And you will see in the year in review that was done, we did a return on investment calculation. So for every dollar spent of workforce funds, $3.99 is returned to the community, and that was based on wage analysis from people who exited the program versus what was spent. So that's an excellent use of federal dollars, I think. And then the next slide, we do share success stories, so you'll see that in some of our newsletters and our social media, so please follow that. All of the numbers are great, but it's the success stories that kind of highlight what we do when people are able to go back into the community and support themselves. So next slide, and LaDonna will talk a little bit more about employers.
So we're unique in that we see both. We have like a dual customer, employers and job seekers. And so employer services, we do paid work experience, recruiting talent. We have a job board, job fairs, job postings, labor market information. If they're looking for information on work opportunity tax credits, we did an employer wage survey within the past 2 years, because that was a big thing about what is the going rate for employees, to make sure that they're competitive. And so those are just some different employers that we've worked with through the last couple years on different opportunities and projects. And that is all we have. If you have anyone who's looking, like I said, we are here in the community. We're open to Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So if you know anyone looking for work or an employer, give us a call or stop in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions? Can you take any questions?
I'm taking questions, yes.
All right, please. Thank you. Ms. Peters?
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple questions here.
Sure.
Do you go into the high schools and talk about your services? So those...
Yes, we do. We do go into the high schools. We do presentations. Sometimes we just set up table at lunch, and I know I've done that and talked to them. I've done many presentations with the high schools. Pre-COVID, we did, we called it the Graduate and Get Paid program, which was we actually identified high school students not going into post-secondary, so they, you know, and we took them on employer tours. So we went to different employers across the county to show them what it's like in different facilities, and some of them actually applied and got jobs from that. So we do talk to high school students about career pathways and what are the careers, and I actually love to talk about what is made in Kankakee County, because not everyone is aware of everything that is being made in the county.
True, thank you. And let's see, I see the large businesses. Can you give me examples of a couple smaller businesses that you've worked with?
To be honest, we work more with the larger business, not because we don't not work with smaller business. It's just that's the context I have. So I don't have, you know, obviously Plockman's is actually considered a small business because they have like 80 employees. It's getting those relationships with small business. It's harder because they are they're doing everything in their small business that they're not.
I think they almost need the help more than the larger
Yes, and I would love, so if you have a small business, give them my information, because I would love to work with them.
Okay.
It's just harder because they have so much that they're doing to outreach and trying to make that connection.
Okay, and then lastly,
Sure.
Special needs. I have a special needs daughter. She's 26. She just finished a culinary program at a special needs college. So I may contact you about that, but have you worked with the special needs community at all? KCTC it says job training, but it's not. It's kind of a day program for people. So depending on special needs, it's depending on the ability, which is right. We do, you know, help individuals. However, depending on the ability, we also have a great partnership with our local vocational rehabilitation partner. And so depending on the ability, we might refer that person to the, we just shorten it to voc rehab, to help that individual with the workforce needs and their services, because it might be because that's their specialty. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So it depends on where that individual is. But if we can't serve them, we have contacts that we would refer them so that they're just not high and dry. Does that make sense? Absolutely. Thank you very much for your answers. Very good answers. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I didn't.
Is there any other questions? Awesome. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So moving on to a proclamation. If we could get this one read in the record, this is exciting.
Proclamation of the County Board of Kankakee County, Illinois, honoring Bishop McNamara Catholic School Junior High baseball team for achieving undefeated season and back-to-back Class 2A IESA state championships. Whereas the 2022 Bishop McNamara Catholic Junior High School baseball team completed a historic season, winning its second consecutive IESA 2A baseball championship. Whereas the 2022 Bishop McNamara Catholic Junior High School baseball team finished its undefeated season with a 20-0 record. And whereas the 2022 Bishop McNamara Catholic Junior High School baseball teams defeated the tournament opponents Tremont 5-0, Teutopolis 5-2, and Brown County 5-0. Whereas the 2022 Bishop McNamara Catholic Junior High School baseball teams outscored its opponents in postseason play 62-2. Whereas the 2022 Bishop McNamara Catholic Junior High School baseball team went undefeated in its back-to-back championship seasons. Whereas the 2022 Bishop McNamara Catholic Junior High School baseball team was led by head coach Kurt Quick and assistant coaches Wes Andrews and Aaron First. Whereas the 2022 Bishop McNamara Catholic Junior High School baseball team's record over these two historic seasons was 38-0. Whereas the 2022 Bishop McNamara Catholic Junior High School baseball team accomplished this feat in the 100th year of Bishop McNamara School. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Kankakee County Board greatly appreciates and honors this historic achievement by the 2022 Bishop McNamara Catholic Junior High School baseball team, and proclaims that Tuesday, October 11, 2022, is 2022 Bishop McNamara Catholic Junior High School Baseball Team Day in the County of Kankakee.
Thank you so much, Coach Quick and Wes. Do you want to join us up front? Can I get a motion on this to approve this proclamation first? Go with Mrs. Parker and Mr. Fairfield. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed,
Aye.
same sign.
Could we have a correction? on your proclamation, unless it's just mine, you are October 202, and we just need to make that October 2022.
It's corrected on this copy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor say aye again, please. Aye. Those opposed, same
Aye.
sign. Thank you. Motion carries. Congratulations. Shrine that forever. Yep, you got it. Let me stand up and ground.
Come on now. You want the little guy in the middle?
Step out from perspective. Thank you.
Yeah, Wes, you do look
You need to come up here.
Take a knee. All right. Thanks, thank you. Thank you.
Alrighty, moving on. Certificates of appreciation. John Jurgens from Corrections, 15 years, and Carla Anderson from the County Clerk's Office, 25 years. Thank you both for your service. Excuse me. In the minutes of last meeting, September 13th, 2022, is there a motion? Mr. Miller? And second over here. Sorry about that. I missed you last time. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same
Aye.
sign. Motion carries. Let's see here. Claims Committee reports.
Mr. Chairman and members of the County Board, your Committee on County Claims have begged leave to report they have examined the following claims presented and recommend payment. The clerk is hereby authorized and directed to issue orders to the several claimants. Total claims of $8,620,459.07.
Is there a motion to approve the claims? Mr. Lear, Mr. Long with a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hess.
Aye.
Mr. Tholen.
Aye.
Mrs. Polk.
She's off screen.
Mr. Snipes. Mr. Seroy.
Aye.
Mr. Lear.
Aye.
Mrs. Weber.
Aye.
Mrs. Peters.
Aye.
Mrs. Parker.
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield.
Aye.
Mr. Carrico.
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff.
Aye.
Mr. Donnell.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Long.
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra.
Aye.
Mr. Hunter. Ms. Hudson.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Hildebrand.
Aye.
Mr. Raymond.
Aye.
Ms. Foster.
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler.
Aye. Motion carries. Under department reports, please.
County Collector's Monthly Report for August 2022. Total cash and bank and investments, $51,978,223.26. Treasurer's Monthly Report for August 2022. In the tax operating account at First American Bank, the ending balance is $37,869,083.91. In the tax collection account at First American Bank, the ending balance is $183,783.70. The tax e-pay account at First American Bank, the ending balance is $876,889.99. And Illinois funds at U.S. Bank, the ending balance is $13,048,465.66. Coroner's Monthly Report for August 2022, total calls of 90, coroner's cases 21, autopsies 7, toxicology 8, donations 0, 39 hospice, 30 referral, 56 cremations, 5 x-rays, 1 outside autopsy, 1 outside x-ray, 5 COVID-19, and 5 pending. Coroner's income report for August 2022, total of $9,628.89. Circuit Clerk Cash Book for month ending August 2022, total dispersed $306,626.77. Recorder's Monthly Report for August 2022, disbursement fees paid to the County Treasurer of $189,795.22. County Clerk's Monthly Report for August 2022, total of $25,963.44. Monthly Building Division Report for July 2022, total permits of 85, total fees of $36,992. Monthly Building Division Report for August 2022, total permits 100, total fees of $35,762. Animal Control Monthly Report for August 2021, total $39,996.63. In the IPTIP Building Fund, $1,025.32, total animals handled 174. The monthly resolution list, total to the county of $21,514.82. And the regional quarterly report from the Iroquois Kankakee Regional Superintendent of Schools is on file.
Alrighty. Is there a motion? Mr. Eckhoff, second on that.
Polk.
Ms. Polk with a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed,
Aye.
same sign. Motion carries. All right, under consent agenda. Looks like it's reappointment day. Is there any of those you want to consider separately? Second time? Is there a motion to combine and approve? Mr. Miller, second. We'll go with Mr. Tholen. All righty. Read these in the record.
The reappointment of Harold McQueen to the Manteno Drainage District Number 3, the reappointment of John Grecius to the Grinnell Special Drainage District, the reappointment of David Wolf to the Grinnell Special Drainage District, the reappointment of Orville Joe Deno to the Gar Creek Drainage District, the reappointment of Keith Yonka to the Baker Creek Drainage District, the reappointment of Jude Pommier to the Baker Creek Drainage District, the reappointment of David Cole to the Canavan Drainage District, the reappointment of Roger Keir to the Rockville Drainage District Number 1, the reappointment of Nicholas Sathoff to the B.M. Lewis Drainage District, the reappointment of Paul DeGroot to the Clausen Park Drainage District, the reappointment of Gerald Wagner to the Raymond Drainage District, the reappointment of Jason O'Connor to the Raymond Drainage District, the reappointment of Mark O'Connor to the Joe Benes Drainage District, the reappointment of Tom DeYoung to the Little Beaver Special Drainage District, the reappointment of Mark Provost to the X-Line Creek Drainage District, the reappointment of Roger Blanchette to the X-Line Creek Drainage District, the reappointment of Leroy Bauer to the McGilvray Drainage District, the reappointment of Stephen Engelking to the Yellowhead and Washington Union Drainage District Number 2, the reappointment of Brian Grob to the Pilot Township Fire Protection District, the reappointment of Dennis Bonvalet to the St. Anne Fire Protection District, the reappointment of Andy Wegner to the Animal Welfare Advisory Committee, and the appointment of Iris Sneed to the Regional Planning Commission.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Could we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Hess.
Aye.
Mr. Tholen.
Aye.
Mrs. Polk.
Aye.
Mr. Snipes.
Aye.
Mr. Seroy.
Aye.
Mr. Lear.
Aye.
Mrs. Weber.
Aye.
Mrs. Peters.
Aye.
Mrs. Parker.
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield.
Aye.
Mr. Carrico.
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff.
Aye.
Mr. Donnell.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Long.
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra.
Aye.
Mr. Hunter.
Aye.
Ms. Hudson.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Hildebrand.
Aye.
Mr. Raymond.
Aye.
Ms. Foster.
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler.
Aye. Motion carries. Under highways and buildings, if we can get that title read in the record, please.
Bear with me just.
Sure, sure.
Resolution authorizing the county board chairman to sign a letter of intent with Commonwealth Edison Company for a temporary easement on the Warner Road Bridge to install fiber optic cable facilities across the Kankakee River.
We'll start off with a motion on this one to get it going. Mr. Carrico to approve, second. We'll go with Mr. Kirkstra. Discussion on this one. We kind of went through this, but basically it's ComEd wants to bring a fiber optic cable across the river. In order to do that, they need to attach it to something while they rig the overhead over the river, coming from the north to the south, I believe. Is that the project scope right now? Regardless, crossing the river. But they need a permission from first the highway engineer, and then obviously then I would sign that agreement if they can find an acceptable way per our criteria, per the highway department's criteria, to affix it to the bridge as to not cause any damage or potential for damage to the structural integrity of the bridge, either now or into the future. So the request is not necessarily to immediately approve this going across the river. It's to let them come up with their plan, present it to Greg, and if it passes his muster, then it would come for me to sign. So that's the general nature of this, and there's also other things attached to it, literally, downstream from this into Limestone Township. that may or may not come in this up in this discussion. So from there, comments, questions, I'll answer the best of my ability. Mr. Hayden is here, he can answer them as well. Nothing for now? All right. We have a motion and a second then. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I will say I'll be reaching out to ComEd to find out about some of the downstream issues that are going on with this project, and we'll report back to probably through PZA what I find out as well. Mr. Long has obviously had conversations with me, and I'll be talking to the township and ComEd as well. Moving on. Dell, we have a few things to talk about, but first, we had a couple Scrivener's errors on the decommissioning. If you would explain those first, and then we could go into motions and all that stuff.
All right, the decommissioning plans for the Kankakee Solar 1 and Solar 2. There was a Scrivener error, both the agenda and on the resolutions themselves. Kankakee Solar 1's figure should be $226,073.88, and the Solar 3 should be $295,206.70. I'm not sure how we came up with the other numbers. I think we took prior to salvage costs is where those numbers came from. So.
Okay, just grab the wrong numbers off there. Easily fixable, but would you see any issues with combining these and approving them at the same time, or not, as the case may be?
No.
Okay, so the motion would include these new numbers, if you would, if someone would make that motion to Mr. Hunter, and we're combining both of these decommissioning, because structurally they're both the same, correct? Correct. Okay, was that the second there? Mr. Fairfield. Any other questions about the plan? Yes, Ms. Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's been a while since we've done one of these, and there's a lot of new members. Can you just give us a little synopsis of what exactly this does?
Okay. The decommissioning, excuse me, the decommissioning plan is basically an insurance policy for the county, which provides funds to remove, dismantle, and return the property back to its original condition for a solar farm when it becomes defunct. So that's what it does. They are. And in this, I guess the grand scheme of things, solar is much more easy to deal with, even if it went sideways and there was no decommissioning plan. I'm not suggesting that at all, but it's very important on windmills because those cost more to take down than you can get on scrap. So decommissioning is important, but obviously it's much more important on wind. The cost of the cranes for windmills is astronomical. Yeah. These actually go up in about 6 to 8 weeks and can be taken down in even less time.
Yep. Any other questions? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All righty, moving on to 190, 2207, if we can get the title read in the record.
Resolution of the County Board of Kankakee County, Illinois regarding ZBA case 2207, single use permit number 8, community residential home in the R1 single family residential district in section 24 of Janier Township.
Alrighty, is there a motion on this one to start off with?
Bless you.
So moved, Ms. Hudson. Mr. Tholen was a second. If we could go into this one, Dale?
Sure. It's a request for a special use permit for community residential home by Garden of Prayer on 11.84 acre parcel zoned R1 on North River Road just outside of Moments. It would house 8 to 10 girls, ages 9 to 18. Currently there is a large 5-bedroom house that has 2 kitchens located on the property, and they would be converting that over to their use, remodeling it, putting in an office for their staff. It would be staffed 24/7. Zoning board recommended approval 4-0. PZA concurred with that. I would take any questions.
Any questions about the property? Mr. Hess.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As George Washington would say, let us not forget. This is not the first time that the Garden of Prayer has bought property and come to us for variance or approval then afterwards. This is not a very good area for a home for troubled kids with a river being right directly in front of it. I believe 2 of the people that spoke for this are either a relative or board member, or the other one is employed by them, to the doctor that sees the kids and that. I cannot support this. My vote will be no.
Mr. Eckhoff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with Mr. Hess. The river is a big issue for me. This location is not a good location for this type of a situation or a home. I do agree that there needs to be some kind of housing for these individuals in the future, but I just don't think that this location is the right location, and I think the process was not the correct process to go through. They boxed the county in the corner, in my personal belief. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Mrs. Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I concur with Mr. Hess and Mr. Eckhoff as well. I'm concerned about the river and the location.
Just to let you know, they did testify they will be putting a fence around the housing portion where the children will be staying.
What, is there any stipulations? I believe there was, I just can't remember exactly.
Conditions on this one?
Conditions on it, yes.
I don't believe so, actually.
No, there's not.
Might have been, I'm sorry? There's nothing on there. I know there were some others that were stipulations put on, or was there, did they describe the type of resident that was gonna be living there?
This one does not have any conditions. The type of resident, it would be girls age 9 to 18.
Okay, because that was
And
in
very
the application
temporary
that
use.
was approved specifically.
Yeah, their housing there would be very temporary while they're being placed somewhere else. So anywhere from a few weeks to a few months.
Okay. Any other questions? Ms. Foster.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't have a question. I just had a comment that Garden of Prayer did come in and they did testify to what they were going to do with the property. As Dilbert said, they will have a fence. The children will be there temporary. These youth that will come will get the type of care that they need, and then they will be placed in a more permanent housing situation. The zoning board did approve it. I believe it was unanimous, and they met all the qualifications, so I'm in favor of it.
Anyone else? Mr. Hunter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Evidently, by unanimous vote, this particular action was approved. And I would assume the questions that have been articulated by my colleagues were addressed. Is that appropriate statement?
They were addressed as far as the river. That definitely was addressed, that they'd be putting a fence around the area with the house, not the entire property. The remainder of the property will remain in agricultural use. There is no floodplain north of the road. All the floodplain is on the south side of the road, so there's hardly any floodplain on this property.
So they never circumvented any requirements in your estimation?
They followed our process. I think what it was being stated was that they purchased it and then asked for it rather than asking for it first. But as far as the zoning process, they did follow the zoning process.
And usually, from your learned position and years of experience, when the ZBA recommends approval, is there a concurrence by this board in terms of adopting their recommendations, by and large?
Generally, yes. Generally, when it's approved by zoning board for recommendation, then the county board concurs with them, but not always. Okay. There have been instances where
by
the county board has...
By and large, though, this board concurs with the ZBA's determination?
For the most part, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, questions? All right. Well then, Mr. Lear, you have something?
Mr. Chairman, is there a process we could ask the ZBA to, or planning and zoning to re-examine this based on some of the questions that have come up at this meeting?
Well, we have sent stuff back to ZBA in the past for specific reasons. I know that has happened. So that's...
I would make that kind of a motion. We send this back.
There's actually another motion on the floor.
Okay, let's see. How do we do that?
We would have to dispense of that. It's not a table or anything like that. It's another motion on the floor. So we would have to dispense with this part of it first, and then if it were to, it would be a whole gyration of reconsider votes and in order to make us that motion at this point during this meeting. That's the only way I would see to do it, but I don't see how. Mr. Hess, did you have a question?
Thank you again, Chairman. Mr. Hunter stated about the Zoning Board of Appeals. I normally go ahead and I read everything on that, and I normally agree with the Zoning Board of Appeals, but they only had 4 members there. There was 3 members absent. That is my thought.
Okay. Mr. Snipes, did you have something?
Yes. Generally, when it comes to the Zoning Board of Appeals and goes through the process, unless the process is flawed, we generally adopt that. Even if I bought the logic that there were only 4 members there and it's 7, it still takes 4. And in this particular case, it was a unanimous 4 that moved it on to the county board. If I was able, I would vote for it, but I have to abstain in this in this process. However, to be able to communicate, when we help people, and I keep hearing almost like we don't want it in our neighborhood. I didn't say that. I just said it almost sounds like we don't want it in our neighborhood, or I didn't get the opportunity. There were, I believe, 2 meetings and 2 processes. So if they were going to weigh in, they had that opportunity to do so. That wasn't the case. If I'm not mistaken, do we have like the state's attorney and other individuals who have sent letters of recommendation for this process?
There are letters in the file.
And could we cite?
That is correct. One from State's Attorney Jim Rowe.
Could you read that in the record, please?
Letter of support. I can. To whom it may concern, I write this letter in support of the Garden of Prayer Youth Center and its goals of expanding the provision of temporary supervised housing options for homeless children. Homeless youth are the most susceptible to exploitation, sexual assault, trafficking, and worse. They are likely to become offenders and/or victims of crime as a result of their circumstances. Youth homelessness is an issue that has been raised as a concern by a number of community needs assessment, and it continues to go largely unaddressed. Many homeless youth in our community are homeless as a result of situations in their home outside of their control, lack of finances, family substance abuse, mental health concerns, etc. Currently, there are few, if any, other housing supports for homeless youth in Kankakee County. We need to do better as a county, and Garden of Prayer offers that solution. Your support of GOPYC in this venture will mean a great deal to the entire county of Kankakee, its residents, and most importantly, the youth who find themselves without any place to call home. It would go a long way toward providing our most under-resourced communities with safe, supervised housing during a transitional period. I would be happy to further discuss this expansion at your convenience. Please do not hesitate to contact me if we can be of assistance.
Could we name some of the others? I don't want to read them, but just name them.
These are all in file in your packets.
Yes, I know, but for the public.
Patrick Joyce, State Senator, 40th Senate District. Michael G. Boyd, Kankakee Community College. Vincent Edward Clark, Kankakee County Community Services Incorporated. Van Drunen Farms, Futureceuticals. Jeff Van Drunen. Iroquois Kankakee Regional Office of Education, Carol Frankie, RN, Zonta Club of Kankakee, Rhonda Thomas and Teresa Schultz. Here's one of objection, Greater Moments Fire Protection District, David Horn, President Board of Trustees, and that is all.
Okay, so to finish my conversation, I just wanted to say that there are areas of support. These are areas, it's a great need, and in Kankakee County, we have spearheaded that particular need. When it comes to servicing people, we have a duty, if not an obligation, to make sure that we serve areas, the underserved especially, the trafficking and things of this nature. Garden of Prayer supervises this at 24/7. Along with this, they have to deal with education and they have support along the way, because again, when you see the lives of just one or two of these individuals just on TV alone, it's disheartening. When someone tries to do something, we're not here to tear up a community, but rather build a community. And if there's any such thing as the Beatitudes and what Jesus himself said, what are we short-circuiting, or why are we short-circuiting that opportunity to help these young ladies? Garden of Prayer has done it successfully with other young ladies that are older, with gentlemen that are older, and yes, even me that sits here on this county board have been a product of that. So as a result, I'm in favor when it comes to helping, because we don't know who the next person that we're taking, whether it be the next attorney general, whether it be the president of the United States, or whomever. But what we need to do is make sure that we make every youth, give them the opportunity to be as successful as they can be. That is America. If not, we short circuit our duties. So if I was voting, I would be in total support of it. So, but in this case, I have to abstain. But I hope the board does the right thing.
Is there anybody else first time? And we'll still start going around second time. I want to make sure. All right, Mr. Eckhoff and then Mr. Hunter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for second time. Delbert, for ZBA, 4 out of 7 showed up. So if only 3 voted for it, they would not go ahead and pass because you wouldn't have the 4. So
right, it takes 4 concurring votes to make a recommendation.
Correct. So maybe there was one on that board that had a reservation on it that didn't go ahead and vote no, because then it wouldn't go ahead and pass on and be back on the docket the following month. So that's
not
my
inside
only
their head.
I know, but that's my only comment. You needed all 4.
They voted the way they did.
Yeah. Mr. Hunter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Listening, Dell, to those letters of recommendations by individuals who have standing in this community, I think there's only maybe one letter of recommendation didn't come from someone, and that may have been Jesus Christ, who was supporting this project. All I've heard from those who are dissenting is location, location, location. I have not heard any other specificity in terms of other germane issues that would cause me to pause on this particular vote. One has to take in consideration Garden of Prayer is the largest African American minority institution in this county. They have done tremendous work with our youth, with the community. If indeed we vote against this, what kind of message does that afford and provide to the Garden of Prayer? I know the individuals who are in the leadership of that organization. They are upstanding citizens, and I would go to the wall for them. They have a wonderful track record in terms of dealing with our youth and other individuals as well. And I'm just very concerned, irrespective of the numbers of people who voted for it with PZA, et cetera. It passed with a recommendation for this body. And I would hope that my colleagues would take into consideration the letters of support one of which was read, and you heard from Dell those other individuals who provided letters of support. I would not adversely vote against those recommendations, which those outstanding individuals ascribed in this particular project. So I will be looking carefully at this matter in terms of how the vote goes. But I think if you have a clear conscience and you take in consideration those individuals who offered letters of support and the history, the long history of support and positive activity and services of Garden of Prayer, you'll vote to affirm this particular request.
Ms. Parker, did you have, okay.
Just one last comment. I have nothing against the mission of the home at all. I do feel that we need something like this in our community for homeless children. As an educator, I've worked with troubled teens. My brother worked for DCFS for nearly 30 years with troubled teens. His home housed troubled teens. And I will tell you this, a fence is not going to stop those kids from running to that river for any reason if they're despondent. I just feel that PZA, God bless them, God bless Garden of Prayer, but I am very concerned about the safety of those children. Excuse me, Mr. Hunter, I'm speaking.
That's all, I'm sorry.
I'm speaking, Mr. Hunter, please. I am very concerned about the safety of it. I love the fact that there will be a home for homeless girls, definitely. Again, we have to think of all the things that go along with troubled teenage girls. That's the only reason I have objection to this right now. I would like to know more about it. It's not the organization, it's not how you voted on the PZA. It's about those children coming into our community. That was all. I just want their safety, and a fence is not going to stop them from leaving.
Let me get Ms. Foster and then you. Thank you. Ms. Foster.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, you know, the type of young people they're going to have, they're not going to be psychotic. You know, they have places for those types of children. I don't think that the river is an issue. You know, this reminds me what's going on, that we can't even get a homeless shelter in Kankakee County. People are afraid of the other. You gave a beautiful prayer, beautiful prayer. It's our responsibility. We have to help people. And I think this is a way that we can do this. It's helping young people. It's a 30-day or 90-day program. They will be placed in a more in a setting that will be long-term. I worked for DCFS too for 32 years, so I do know the type of children that will come here. And I think it's something, you know, something that we should think about, that we discourage the PZA who voted for this. You know, I'm new, but I've been to a lot of meetings here, whether I was on it or not on it, because I'm trying to learn. And I would offer up that, you know, other board members need to come to some of these committees if you didn't think that everything was done right. But everything was done the way it should be. It's not anyone's fault that only 4 members came, but those people came and they heard the information and they voted. So I think we should approve this. Garden of Prayer, they are, you know, have did a wonderful job. Their partner, their neighbors behind them, Van Buren has sent a beautiful letter. And you know, the Van Buren, they're all for helping the communities in Kankakee County. So I think we can proceed on in a positive.
Mr. Seroy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Skimmerhorn, can I ask a question? Do you know when the ZBA case was generated, like the date they applied for the variance? Because in my experience, some of these cases take a while to get to the zoning board.
It did. It's a special use permit, not a variance. but,
Okay, well, special use.
The application, there should be a date on it.
Because sometimes sometimes the purchase of a property can happen faster than the actual variance process. So I can understand that if the price is right, you might want to jump on the property and wait and see for the length of the variance taking. Also,
it was filed back in June.
In June?
Yes, and
okay, so
they'd already owned the property by then.
Right, but it's June and we're in October, so that's a period of time. In my experience, I know the work the Garden of Prayer does. I support the work the Garden of Prayer does. They're homeless kids. These are kids that have nowhere else to go. And I know the work that they do for these children. I would hope there would be places for those children to go. So I will support this variance. Thank you.
Any others? Mr. Carrico, yes.
Well, my understanding is some of the comments made here, actually not in favor of this, was more related to the location. I did not get, it was not my understanding that any of the members addressed, any comments were addressed against the service offered by the organization within the county. So that was just mostly made based on the location and the safety regarding to that property, the location, not within the service of that organization. So I just want to make sure that, you know, that was addressed, because it was a little bit of a mixed kind of type of comments afterwards, saying, you know, things like people don't want to go in favor of this. That's a good organization. I understand that it is a good organization. I'm in favor of what the service it's generally offered by the organization, but the comments was mostly made by in concern with the location, not the service offered by the organization.
All right, we got everything. Mr. Snipes?
Just one more to add. I heard the concerns as to the river. The girls' home that we have in Moments not only has a nice pond behind it, but right behind it is the Kankakee River, less than a few hundred feet. That's on the property. Not one child has went to that river or to the pond and say, let me drown myself. The reason so is because there's a support system in place. Needs are being addressed. Psychologically, emotionally, all of that is being addressed. Also, that's supervised staff and cameras all over the place. So you're talking 24/7 supervision. Just because they have a river, to me, that would be calming. I lived on the farm that's out there. We're right on the river. Across the street on 114, across the street is a river. And again, another pond. I've never jumped off into that, and I was 12 years old when I came. So what I'm saying is, these issues, unless you're actually out there dealing with individuals, are just smoke screens or barriers that we put into the way. These are homeless children. These are our children, or should be. And if we don't want to help a child, my respect for any board member or anyone that's in this county that would not help a child, I would just have reservations. These are our children, our community. And then they're not here. They're only here for a span. And we're trying to make a difference in their lives. Lives that have been messed up in the past, lives that have of abuse in the past. And for 3 good months, they get a solitude. Seeing the river, seeing the country land around them. What is about 11 acres or 15 acres? And that's and it's off. Again, we have the supervision, but it's taking people out of the city into the country, or out of the country into a safe haven of a country, and it's giving them the opportunity to grow, to develop, and to get healing. And if you're against that, the only thing I can say is, you know, I don't know. I wouldn't have words. But I will do what Jesus did. Suffer them, little children, to come unto me. For such is the kingdom of God. And if we don't prepare them, who will? If they don't get this opportunity, who will? And those girls are doing great out there. You haven't had one complaint. So it's not the river that I'm worried about. It's the development of these children. And I dealt with them for the last 28 years at the Kankakee High School. I see the hurt, and I see some of them that want to get away and get into homes. And we provide that with the help of you. Hopefully we partnering with our county. We didn't get the Governor's Hometown Award for doing nothing, or the many other awards that have been attributed. And we don't do it for an award. We do it because the parents that raised me instilled in me. It gave me a dad when I didn't have one, and a mom that cared. So I have a passion when it comes to this. Because if they can help, and they help me, then I know they have the ability to help others. Everybody on the team cares about our children. I hope the county does the same.
All right. So we have a motion and a second on the floor.
I abstain.
To approve.
I did. I just explained it.
Okay. All right. We have a motion and a second. Please, let's keep the side conversations, guys, folks. But when I can hear it over everybody else, it's not necessarily conducive to discussion. All right, we have a motion and a second. I guess we'll probably do a roll call vote on this.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hess.
Nay.
Mr. Tholen.
Aye.
Mrs. Polk.
Aye.
Mr. Snipes.
Abstain for family reasons.
Mr. Seroy.
Aye.
Mr. Lear.
Aye.
Mrs. Weber.
Aye.
Mrs. Peters.
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield.
Aye.
Mr. Carrico.
Nay.
Mr. Eckhoff.
Nay.
Mr. Donnell.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Long.
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra.
Aye.
Mr. Hunter.
Aye.
Ms. Hudson.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Hildebrand.
Aye.
Mr. Raymond.
Aye.
Ms. Foster.
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Moving on to 2210. We could get that title read in the record, please.
Resolution of the County Board of Kankakee County regarding ZBA case 22-10, rezoning from A1 Agriculture District to A2 Agriculture Estates District, and a variance of to section 121-100.d lot size in section 12 of Yellowhead Township.
All right, Del, would you want to run through that? I tell you what, let's get a motion on the floor first. Is there a motion to approve on this one? Mr. Tholen, a second. Mr. Fairfield. All right.
Okay, ready?
Yep.
William and Kristen Berger have purchased the 16-acre tract that is outlined in red on the map on the screen. It is currently zoned A1 agriculture, and since it's 16 acres, is ineligible for a home to be built on it. So they are requesting it to be rezoned from A1 to A2 agricultural estate, which has a minimum lot size of 2 acres and a maximum lot size of 15 acres. So they're asking for a variance to lot size because it has 1 acre more than the maximum requirement. This went to the Zoning Board of Appeals. They voted 4-0 to approve this one, and PZA did concur with that. I do want to let the board know, though, that because the A2 district lets you go down as low as 2 acres on a parcel, and the Illinois Plat Act allows you to divide a parcel into 5 acres without asking for any county board approval, you could see 3 homes on this piece of property. So just wanted to make it make it clear that the board knew that if you are to approve this, you could see 3 homes there.
And it will not come back here.
Without any further oversight by the board.
Will be no oversight. That's what I was trying to get across in PZA, so he said it much better than I could. Mr. Kirkster.
I'm sorry, I was distracted. Would you repeat that last section?
The last part?
The last part,
okay,
please.
Yes, it's a combination of our zoning ordinance and the Illinois Plat Act. Our zoning ordinance for A2, which is what the request is here, allows you to go as low as 2 acres for an A2 property. The Illinois Plat Act allows you to go as small as 5 acres without asking for any permission, as long as you got road frontage, and this has plenty of road frontage. So although the applicants have testified they're just going to build 1 home there, they or a future owner can easily build 2 additional homes and do not have to come back to the county for any permission whatsoever. So if you approve this, you are at some future date really approving 3 homes on this site.
Mr. Eckhoff, you had something?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Come on, we get you on there. No.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can we go ahead and put a stipulation that you can only do 1 home on it?
No. It is rezoning. That would be contract zoning, so you cannot do that.
Mr. Long, did you have something? Okay, that was it. What's the Lisa score on that farmland? Seems relevant in almost every other context.
I didn't think it was that high, honestly, but let's take a look here. 206. It's a medium.
Medium?
Yeah.
Okay, explain that.
Huh?
Explain that. What is that?
Del, could you explain?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
He explained medium, the Lisa score, all that.
Well, the Lisa score is a 1 to 200 number that is generated based on an abundance of criteria, and I forget the exact cutoff, but I think around 190 and below is minimum or low for preservation. From there to about 210, 215 is medium, and above 215 is high preservation. So
To preserve it for agriculture?
to preserve, yes, to preserve it for agricultural use. Yeah, so. I do not know the exact cutoffs right now, but in those ranges.
Didn't come up in PZA, so I thought I'd bring it up here. Just thought it was actually really relevant to the conversation. Because it comes up when we're talking about solar and wind and everything else, when it doesn't really apply to that situation, because why would you need to have access to schools when you're a wind farm or a solar farm? That kind of stuff.
A further note, this was a 20-acre parcel a few years back, and the owner at that time chose to divide off the house using, I believe, the farmstead exemption, and we're told that the remaining 16 acres would have to stay in agriculture because it wouldn't be eligible for a home, and they went ahead with it anyway. Now they're selling it to someone else.
So please go around, ask as many questions. I can tell you I'm a no on this for 2 specific reasons. First, it would never come back here. The Plat Act ensures that. Second of all, in every conversation I have with township fire protection districts, they can't pay for the services they provide now. And we're starting to build subdivisions by allowing this. And things like this, we're setting a precedent that, okay, well, you can buy a piece of land, divide it off, and then we have to police it, and then we have to fire protect it. And we already don't have enough money to do that. And they're complaining with referendum, that's a complaint that we need more money to service this. EMS, ambulance services being stopped to some of the rural areas. Just say, that's why I'm saying no. You draw your own conclusions. Any other thoughts on this? Go with a voice vote. All those in favor? Mr. Snipes?
Just wanted to say, this was approved, correct?
Approved by zoning board and recommended approval by zoning board and planning and zoning.
And the planning and zoning committee. And I believe when we address some of the issues, and I believe I've heard that the taxes, but if you were to build 3 homes on that, just say hypothetically, on that property, given the homes now at $200,000 or better, would not the tax of that property go up?
Certainly.
And so as a result, if you built 3 homes, that would probably be 3 times what you don't have now.
3 times the taxes, but 3 times the services.
That service is if they need it, because if it's young people, they might not need it, but we're dealing with ifs, but so.
I mean, there's services everyone needs. Snow plowing, if you don't have children, you don't need the schools, but you might need a fire department, might need a police department. And while 3 houses might not be the trigger to necessarily add police officers or fire engines, if you do this often enough, and enough times, eventually you'll need another fire truck. You'll need more squad cars.
Right.
So
I understand that, but what I was saying is that as our community grows, and again, there are houses that are out there, so will we not have to provide services to any of those homes that are out there? So as a result, this is probably one of the reasons why I voted to yes in the matter, because I believe that we, unless we're going to be prophets, and I do know that from time to time we will try to foresee, but there are homes that surround the property, and so as a result, the only thing I'm seeing I can ascertain is that if they would have put 3 homes, it would only build from what they don't have now to help those that are around them to build a community that, if the service can go to this one, it certainly will be able to go to that one. But if you have 3 more, not to say they're going to put it there, but that'll be 3 more homes, that'll be 3 more tax bases that will increase what they don't have now. So as a result, I mean, just another perspective.
Any other discussion points? All right, we'll go with a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Roll call.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hess.
Aye.
Mr. Tholen.
Aye.
Mrs. Polk.
Aye.
Mr. Snipes.
Aye.
Mr. Seroy.
Aye.
Mr. Lear.
Nay.
Mrs. Weber.
Nay.
Mrs. Peters.
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield.
Aye.
Mr. Carrico.
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff.
Nay.
Mr. Donnell.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Nay.
Mr. Long.
Nay.
Mr. Kirkstra.
Nay.
Mr. Hunter.
Aye.
Ms. Hudson.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Hildebrand.
Aye.
Mr. Raymond.
Aye.
Ms. Foster.
Nay.
Mr. Wheeler.
Nay. Motion carried.
14-8, motion carried.
Motion carries. It's the way it's supposed to work. And thank you for the respectful debate. 2211, if we could read that one to the record of the title, please.
Resolution of the County Board of Kankakee County, Illinois regarding ZBA case 2211, special use permit 13A, fertilizer sales and service in the A1 Agriculture District in Section 6 of Janier Township.
Del, briefly?
You want a motion?
Yeah, let's get a motion to approve on this one first. Mr. Kirkstra, Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Okay. This one involves growing pains and a bit of a success story. Heritage FS Incorporated, located on St. George Road in Janier Township, started on that property in 1971 with a special use permit for fertilizer sales. Expanded again in 2001. You can follow the lines on the map up there. And now in 2022, they need to expand again to grow their business. So since a special use permit is limited to a specific piece of property, they're requesting yet again another special use permit to enlarge their facilities, and also will be adding propane sales to their list of offerings. The zoning board voted 4-0 to approve this one, and Planning and Zoning Committee also concurred with that.
All right, any questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, 2212, please.
Resolution of the County Board of Kankakee County, Illinois regarding ZBA case 2212, special use permit 121-99-C.34 solar farm, a variance to section 121-99.C.34.B.7 interconnect agreement in the A1 Agriculture District, Section 31, Rockville Township, USS Warner Solar LLC.
All righty, is first to get into it, a motion there, Mr. Eckhoff, to approve. Second, Mr. Kirkster. No.
This is a request for a 5 megawatt community solar garden on a 35-acre parcel on Warner Bridge Road, about a quarter-mile north of Illinois Route 102, right on the county line. It's owned by the Jackson Family Trust. The name of the proposed solar farm is USS Warner Solar. They're also asking for a variance on the requirement for an interconnect agreement as part of the application process. And with some changing laws at the state, it makes a lot of sense. The interconnect agreement with ComEd is not necessarily needs to be required at the special use permit, even though our ordinance does require it. It does need to happen before the building permit occurs, and it's a bit of an expensive and lengthy process, which tends to keep the smaller developers out of the game. So they are asking for a variance to not require the interconnect agreement at this time. Zoning board met and voted 5-1 to recommend approval. Planning and zoning did recommend approval. The dissenting vote stated that he voted no because of the high Lisa score of 233, which puts it at a high rate for agricultural preservation.
All right, questions? All right, hearing none. Yes, sir, Mr. Long.
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, we have this, I have a conflict when it comes to people's rights over their own properties. And I feel very strongly about that right of people's control over their own property. However, I think we need to at least bring into the conversation something that says that Kankakee County will accept only so many of these properties. I know that there's several in process, and the acreage we're talking about is huge, and the property owners will benefit greatly by the contract for 35 years worth of solar energy. However, it also precludes what you're going to do with that property for the next 35 years. And it may affect what goes on with adjoining properties in those 35 years. And while they're proposing, the money that they're offering seems large today, let's look in the rearview mirror. At $1,500 an acre today, 35 years ago, what was that number? What will that number be 35 years from today? Will it be sustainable money for those people? And what are their financial losses on the value of that property over that 35 years? What are they going to miss? The other conversation I think that needs to be had is that other counties are now doing moratoriums or placing percentages upon how many tillable acres of land can be brought into solar and wind power energy. I think, and in my lifetime, the conversation used to be about how are we going to feed people in the future. And if we cover up all of our land with solar and wind energy, how is that going to work out for us? Especially right now with the loss of the Ukrainian people and their product. The Ukrainian people feed many, many people in Europe, and it's going to be good for our farmers short term, but with increased population and increased amount of property being taken out of production, how are we going to approach the future? And I think today ought to start the conversation of how much of this are we going to allow? What percentage of acreage of our county are we going to allow? Is every township, is Essex Township and Salina Township, are we going to just kind of let them go to solar and wind power and
say that that's okay. And there are some changes in the law that Delbert alluded to earlier, where eminent domain is a possibility for the utilities. Now, I don't know a whole lot about that yet. It's a brand new law. Nobody's talking about it yet very much outside of the agricultural circles. But I think we need to talk about that before we get to properties that are 1,000, 2,000, who knows how many thousands of acres of wind and solar powers. Just trying to start the conversation, not trying to eliminate people's rights over their property. I'm one of them. I've been approached several times for the solar energy. It's a hard decision. Payment guaranteed for 35 years. Farming, not so guaranteed. But it will definitely change our future. Yeah, thank you.
And thank you for your comments. I think if we were to take something up like that, it would be a policy thing starting at PZA. We have looked into those numbers to your saying, and I did receive some information from, let's just say, our farming community regarding some of those moratoriums while they tighten up their, specifically they were to tighten up their ordinances. They put a moratorium on for that reason, just to tighten up the ordinances. Some people, or some counties are discussing just what you're saying, a percentage limitation. But I don't know if any of them enacted any as of yet, but it's a discussion point. So you're spot on, we should talk about it. If everything we had approved right now, I'm talking the 60-some and the 3,000 acre one, that puts us over just 1%.
Everything that we have approved, everything that we have proposed, all total together, comes out to about 0.08 of the county's total farmland, so less than 1%.
Okay. And so I guess what you're saying is we need to figure out what that number is based on the acreage in the county.
If I'm allowed to follow up.
Oh, sure, sure.
So I think in terms of, we think of the farmer that is going to benefit from this. But what we're seeing in other parts of the country is that groups of people are going together as investors, not for the solar farm, but for the property, for the guaranteed income into the future. So immediately you're changing the face of agriculture. You're purchasing not for raising corn and beans and so on. You're purchasing it as a business to make money. Nothing wrong with that, except for it changes the face of who we are.
Mr. Lear.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to applaud Mr. Long for bringing these before us. I think he's right about starting a conversation. I would want to throw in, it's not just the individual farmer we're thinking about the energy needs that exist within our county, our state, even our country. And it's not an easy balance to find. I would want us to see going ahead and investigating what the appropriate balance is. But I would point out that this is trying to find a balance between energy and food.
And obviously property rights, as Mr. Long mentioned as well. So there was someone, Mr. Snipes.
I voted for this, and I had some of the same concerns. I do also feel like Ms. Long, I have to, I'm a person that if you have property, I really don't believe in stampeding up on that property. But I asked the question, and I believe the answer that I got was that there was no property degradation if they were to come in and take all those solar panels up 35 years from now, that the land would be farmable. Is that still correct?
That is my understanding of it. They're just metal pipes shoved into the ground that can be easily pulled back out of the ground. The ground sits fallow for 35 years. The experts say that it would be better ground than when it started because it hadn't been heavily planted and fertilized for 35 years.
Thank you.
So this is a temporary use.
Right. So with a good disc to break up the ground it can go back to farmland, and so that's one of the reasons. And then the other thing is the percentage. The percentage is less than 1% of the land that we have. So as a result, I do say in the future, let's look at it, and so it's not in just one specific area, but it's kind of well-rounded in the county, and then whatever that percentage is that we decide to stay within that particular scope for the most part. But because of the low percentage and because of no harm to the land, I voted for it.
I would like to mention something. I do just clarify this. We don't pick the spots for solar farms at the county board.
We're not picking.
I know it's a bit. We don't even determine like where they would go in the county because they're looking for substations. That's where a solar farm goes, is around a substation. That's the name of their game. So we know where all those are at in the county. It's one of the reasons you don't see them in some of these areas where people said we want solar for our area. Well, there is no substation there that can accept that interconnect. That
there is already a natural limit without them spending a ridiculous amount of money. You have to have the was it 640 kV lines or a substation. And that's the properties you're seeing now are near those places. As you go farther away,
there's a map in my office that has them, and you can see them grouped around the substations.
Right. The farther away you get, the more expensive it gets. I don't know what the future will bring for that, but as of right now, there is already a natural limit as to where they're going to go.
So, Mr. First Time, Ms. Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a farmer, I just want to let you know that there's a difference between the landowners. There's a lot of landowners out there that their family previously farmed and they've inherited this land. So the solar farms are very attractive to them because the solar companies are paying more than the farmers to cash rent. So, and that's all I wanted to say. It's kind of hurting the farmers because there's less land for us to farm. But on the other hand, the landowners have a right to make money off their property. So.
Yes, there was the other one here, Mr. Long. Anyone else first time? We'll go back to you, Mr. Long, in a second. Mr. Seroy, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with Mr. Long wholeheartedly. And to what you said, Mr. Chairman, about they're clustered around the substations. To Mr. Snipes' point, I don't think they'll ever go back to being farmland because they can always be just retrofitted in 35 years or 25 years for newer, better panels. They've already got all the wire, all the groundwork is already done. So why would you take something that's viable to take it away if it's in an ideal spot? So they would just renew, and we're stuck with it forever, is my belief. You know, we can argue about that, but I think once it's there to stay. And I don't mind, I'm here about Kankakee County, and I don't mind working for the people of Kankakee County and powering Kankakee County, but I do not care to power the city of Chicago. I do not care to power New York City. I do not care to power the East Coast, is what some of these salesmen have come through and said that's what these things are for. Well, I don't care about those people. I care about our people. So I believe we do need to have the conversation about what percentages we allow to keep what we have, because it is special to us, but we are pretty prime for the picking because the dollar does a lot. So, we have to weigh that. We have tough decisions here coming in the future with this green energy, because the green energy just takes away our green land. So that's my opinion on it. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
It's inappropriate. Can't have anybody comment from the crowd. Anyone else first time? Mr. Long.
Thank you, Chairman. I would also remind you that each one of these solar fields comes with infrastructure. And I'll remind you of how this worked. The substation to the windmills is in Kempton. There is a set of wires that come all the way from Kempton on property along right-of-ways all the way to Kensington Road. It is not particularly easy to farm around. It's not nice to look at. and they have a right to do that now because of the new legislation. So no matter where they put it, if it meets their needs, they can go there. I'll give you a closer example. Out there just behind the Catholic Church off of Goodrich Road is a solar farm we approved. They hook up to the line at Lehigh Stone Quarry. They burrowed through I believe it's 3 fields to get there. They have a right to do that now under eminent domain. So if I'm wrong, please correct me on that.
I don't know anything about it,
so it comes with a cost.
I know they
to
buried the
others.
lines.
It comes with a cost to other people who are not involved with that too.
I don't believe they used eminent domain.
They did not.
They obtained easements.
They paid
from
for it?
Those property owners.
Yes,
yeah.
they did.
All right, and just so I want to caution everybody, let's please keep the discussion to this case, because we're talking about something we do need to tackle, and I agree. I think everybody here wants to have that conversation, because that's what we do. But let's try to keep it on this case, Ms. Peters.
I just want to mention that where is the money coming from? It's being driven by ESG scores. If you don't know what it is, you need to look it up. Environmental, social, and governance scores. They're doing. They're putting the money into the green energy right now, whether it makes money for them or not.
And any other comments? Alrighty, I guess we'll go with a voice vote. We have the motion in a second. I'm sorry, it's been a while. And this is, make sure, yes. You have a motion in a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Nay.
Yeah, 1 nay for the record. Alrighty, motion carries. Moving on to, looks like 13?
Yes.
13, sorry.
Resolution of the County Board of Kankakee County, Illinois regarding ZBA case 22-13, special use permit 121-99.c.34, solar farm, and a variance to section 121-99.c.34.b.7, interconnect agreement in the A1 Agriculture District, section 17, Limestone Township, USS O'Connor Solar LLC.
Is there a motion on this one? Mr. Eckhoff, second. Mr. Kirkstra, Del?
Okay. This property is owned by Dolores and Kevin O'Connor. It's a request for a 5 megawatt community solar garden on 35 acres of the 157 acre parcel outlined on the screen. It would actually be in that northeast corner up there, about where the white arrow is pointing to in that section there. They're also asking for the same interconnect variance on this project. The zoning board voted 6-0 to recommend approval, and PZA concurred with that.
Alrighty. Any questions, thoughts, comments on this particular site? Alrighty, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign.
Nay.
They believe 2 nays, I believe. Yeah, there's Mr. Dunn and Mr. Long. All right. And yes, they have to do a 195 as well.
Resolution of the County Board of Kankakee County, Illinois regarding amendment to the bylaws of the Kankakee County Regional Planning Commission.
So just of note, before we get a motion on this, the committee passed 11 people, and we had someone in process. So we decided to change it to 12 for this committee because we didn't think that gentleman deserved that. We'll go ahead and, we already approved Mr. Sneed to join, so if you want to make it 11, as the committee said, you can amend that, but we didn't think it was fair to come to this committee with 11 when he was just applying it in the process. So as it stands, the motion, or we corrected it to 12 in here, but you obviously, the committee has the option to switch it back to 11. I don't think that's gonna happen, I just want to mention it. So we need a motion on that to approve. Mr. Miller, a second? Second, Ms. Hudson. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So all those people, I believe, Del and Red, are now expired, if you will, now that we have passed that.
The board will be made up of the ones in green, including Mr. Sneed, who was appointed this morning.
Correct. All right, so that's good. Thank you. Moving on, under finance, we can get the title of 196.
Resolution of the County Board of Kankakee County, Illinois regarding property tax abatement for tax year 2022 payable 2023 to be abated in its entirety.
Is there a motion on this to start with? Mr. Lear, a second. Mr. Smith, with a second. Basically, we are abating these property taxes, as we talked about for the health department. And this also triggers the moving forward with the plan to abate what will be a total of $2.5 million of retiring those bonds early, so the taxpayers will get that off of their tax bills the next two years. They won't even see that line on there anymore. So we need to do this abatement first in order to trigger the next step. So I want to make sure that the paperwork is correct here. Health Department, and then also the 2009 Circuit Clerk bond for the computer system. Again, that will be gone in 2024, as the jail bonds will be gone in 2024, and then the county will only have the bonded debt of the animal control, which is actually paid for out of the fees and the registration. So we'll functionally have zero bond debt, which I don't know that's ever really happened here. I tell people it's like we're paying off the car and the house and the student loans ourselves, and credit cards and everything. And so, Mr. Hunter, start with that first.
Mr. Chairman, this is a monumental achievement by this body. Will you be providing a press release on this? Because I think it needs a standalone communication to our constituents.
Yeah, I did 2 weeks ago.
Well, I mean, that's big stuff.
It's frustrating, actually, when they totally ignore your press release over $2.5 million tax rebate to the taxpayers. It's really frustrating, to be honest. But it is what it is. So maybe I'll just remind him when he comes back in the room about that press release. So, yes, Mr. Snipes.
Before the motion was made, I wanted to see if we can amend the motion, because these are all authorizations by the chair. If we could amend the motion to include the 196, the 198, the 199, and the 213, since all of those are authorizations.
Well, it's more of a legal question. I prefer to do them one at a time because they're substantially different pieces of business, but yeah. Mr. Coughlin agrees, so we should take them separately. That doesn't mean we need to beat the dead horse. We'll go through it quickly. No, okay. So is there a motion to approve on this one? Mr. Carrico, a second. Mr. Long, wait, we already had someone on this one. I apologize. Yeah. So we already had the motion on that. We'll save that one for the next one. Lear and Smith, okay. Any other discussion on that? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hess.
Aye.
Mr. Tholen.
Aye.
Mrs. Polk.
Aye.
Mr. Snipes.
Aye.
Mr. Seroy.
Aye.
Mr. Lear.
Aye.
Mrs. Weber.
Aye.
Mrs. Peters.
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield. Mr. Carrico.
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff.
Aye.
Mr. Donnell.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Long.
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra.
Aye.
Mr. Hunter.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Hildebrand.
Aye.
Mr. Raymond.
Aye.
Ms. Foster.
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler.
Aye. Motion carried. Yes.
What was that we just passed unanimously? Because the reporter just came back into the room.
He got the press release on it 2 weeks ago.
All right.
Well, could you repeat? Excuse me, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Speaking, I don't want to be chastised. But really, that does.
Yeah.
You know, you do need to repeat that, Mr. Chairman.
Well, we abated the taxes, the property taxes, so it'll fall right off the tax bills for the health department and for the court system bond. And then next year, over the course of the next 2 years, where we started the wheels in motion on abating those, it's like 1.6 million for that and the health department bond entirely. So really, we're gonna save the taxpayers about $2.5 million right off the tax bill. So what we started today was that.
I think 1.6.
Yeah.
That was the highlight. That's the highlight of the meeting.
That's just for the jail.
It is the highlight of the day.
For the court's bond.
Way to go, Todd.
I don't know. I think it was the appointments to the commissions was the highlight. So move on. We got a lot of stuff to go through here. Let's see. Next item, please. I'm sorry.
Resolution of the County Board of Kankakee County, Illinois, authorizing the County Board Chairman to sign a collective bargaining agreement between the County of Kankakee and the Illinois Fraternal Order of Police, FOP, Labor Council, on behalf of Kankakee County Corrections Officers and Civilians Bargaining Unit.
So someone on the negotiating team maybe make that motion. You were on that one, right, Mr. Eckhoff? Second, Mrs. Weber. Any comments about the process or anything that you all would like to make to the board? Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Number 9. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to go ahead and say it's a great deal for the county and for the FOP down there. For the correction officers, kudos to our lawyer, Mike. He was fantastic throughout the whole process. And thank you to Anita, yourself, and Sheriff, and everybody in administration down there at JCDC. They took this one home, and they did a fantastic job.
Yep. Mrs. Weber?
Thank you, I agree. It was very good.
Mr. Fairfield, yeah, sorry.
I also agree and thank all those that represented the county and the corrections and the administration. Thank you.
Well. So we have the motion in a second. Let's do a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Huss.
Aye.
Mr. Tholen.
Aye.
Mrs. Polk.
Aye.
Mr. Snipes.
Aye.
Mr. Seroy.
Aye.
Mr. Lear.
Aye.
Mrs. Weber.
Aye.
Mrs. Peters.
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield.
Aye.
Mr. Carrico.
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff.
Aye.
Mr. Donnell.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Long.
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra.
Aye.
Mr. Hunter.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Hildebrand.
Aye.
Mr. Raymond. Ms. Foster.
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler.
Aye. Motion carries. Now, Mr. Coughlin, these all are insurance related, all the next ones. Could we go with what Mr. Snipes was talking about for that?
Yes.
This is the block that we discussed.
Amen.
Got it. So we're going to combine 198, 199, 201, 202, and 213. Does anyone want to talk about any of those separately? You might see us all turn on you, but we'll do it. So, okay. If we could get the motion to approve in that manner. Mr. Snipes?
Okay.
And was that the second? Oh, Mr. Long with the second. Yeah, if we just probably read the title of those. Yes.
Authorizing the county board chairman or his designee to sign an agreement with Delta Dental for dental insurance for county employees and officials qualified for dental insurance. Authorizing the county board chairman or his designee to sign an agreement with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois for vision coverage insurance for Kankakee County employees and officials who qualify for medical insurance. Kankakee County awards Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois as the county's group term life insurance carrier, as well as a supplemental group term life insurance carrier. Health spending account contributions. Kankakee County continued funding of Perspectives Limited Employee Assistance Program as a carrier for the county of Kankakee. Authorizing the county board chairman or his designee to sign an agreement with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois for medical insurance for Kankakee County employees and officials who qualify for medical insurance.
All right. So just for those that didn't see on finance, renewal started at 11.5. We got it down to 8.5. So after a 20-some% increase the year before. Wow, that's a lot of money when you're talking about the size of our group. So it was a little bit more in line. Thank Mr. Lynch for working with us on getting that down. Pretty much everything else is employee funded. So those are some rates went down, some rates stayed the same. We had some longer term deals. So pretty minimal impact on the plans themselves. So if no other questions, we can get a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hess.
Aye.
Mr. Tholen.
Aye.
Mrs. Polk.
Aye.
Mr. Snipes.
Aye.
Mr. Seroy.
Aye.
Mr. Lear.
Aye.
Mrs. Weber.
Aye.
Mrs. Peters.
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield.
Aye.
Mr. Carrico.
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff.
Aye.
Mr. Donnell.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Long.
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra.
Aye.
Mr. Hunter.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Hildebrand.
Aye.
Mr. Raymond.
Aye.
Ms. Foster.
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler.
Aye. Motion carries. On the consent agenda for ARPA projects and lost revenue that's 203 through 211. Does anyone want to consider any one of those separately and pull it out and have a discussion. Let you look through them a second. All right, second time. Anyone you want to talk about separately? And if not, we'll take a motion to combine and approve. Mr. Hunter, Mr. Donnell with a second. If we can get those read into the record, I apologize for that.
Authorizing expenditure from fiscal year 2022, Fund 95 for the following. Andrade Pizza Incorporated, doing business as Luccone's Pizza. Janier Township Road District, Grant Park Fire Protection District, Limestone Park District, Village of Buckingham, Yellowhead Township Road District, and for fiscal year 2022, Fund 98, America Rescue Plan Lost Revenue Fund, for the Kankakee County Planning Department for digitization of files, for the Kankakee County Maintenance Department for a mail machine, and the Kankakee County Courts for the basement remodel project.
Alrighty. Since this is consent, we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hess.
Aye.
Mr. Tholen.
Aye.
Mrs. Polk.
Aye.
Mr. Snipes.
Aye.
Mr. Seroy.
Aye.
Mr. Lear.
Aye.
Mrs. Weber.
Aye.
Mrs. Peters.
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield.
Aye.
Mr. Carrico.
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff.
Aye.
Mr. Donnell.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Long.
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra.
Aye.
Mr. Hutter.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Hildebrand.
Aye.
Mr. Raymond.
Aye.
Ms. Foster.
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler.
Aye. Motion carries. If we can, openings, we have just a couple, looks like.
One opening on the Moments Pembroke Union Drainage District Number 1, one opening on the Moments Yellowhead Drainage District Number 1, one opening on the Gar Creek Drainage District, one opening on the Mantino Drainage District Number 3, one opening on the McGilvery Special Drainage District, one opening on the Baker Creek Drainage District, and one opening on the Kankakee River Conservancy District.
Alrighty. So I had a couple of things that I was going to mention, and then obviously we'll do, new and other, but I received an email regarding the bond that we were just talking about for animal control. It was when they floated that bond, something happened that I really wasn't prepared for. It caused like a mini feeding frenzy. People were fighting over our business. It dropped 12 basis points during the bidding process, which is, I don't know, $30,000, $50,000 right in that area somewhere. Those people who've been here remember when the banks wouldn't even return our phone call. Literally, they would, if we didn't have 2 local banks help us through that time period when we needed loans, the county would have been open 2-3 days a week, tops. We would have had probably less than half the workforce because we just didn't have the cash flow. This is how far it's come. I hear, comments like our finances are fuzzy and our plan is fuzzy and other kinds of stuff, but this just doesn't happen to people who are fuzzy and that have no plan. We have a plan, we executed it, and I couldn't be happier for everybody here that's been in the past and currently here that's pulling on the same end of the rope to get this done. Because it's nice when the work is affirmed by people fighting over your business instead of throwing your mail right into the garbage can as soon as they get it. So anyway, I thought that was good news. Next item is a resolution, sorry Dan, I'm standing in your area here.
Resolution of the County Board of Kankakee County, Illinois, to allow the County of Kankakee to enter into a lease with Riverside Medical Center.
This came on at the last minute. Riverside and the state's attorney realized that they needed to redo their lease. It expires at the end of the month. So I said, well, let's put it on the full board so they don't have to wait on any of that. It's for the clinician that works with the I'd say juveniles that are coming out through the justice system in Jim Rowe's office. So it's that whether they're victims, offenders, whatever else, he'll give you the details, but it's for that room that they rent for us, so from us over there at the probation department. So that's all this is a redoing of that same lease we've been paying. So information is in the packet. Is there a motion to approve? Mr. Snipes, Mr. Fairfield. Let's do a roll call vote.
Mr. Hess.
Aye.
Mr. Tholen.
Aye.
Mrs. Polk.
Aye.
Mr. Snipes. Aye. Mr. Seroy.
Aye.
Mr. Lear.
Aye.
Mrs. Weber.
Aye.
Mrs. Peters.
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield.
Aye.
Mr. Carrico.
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff.
Aye.
Mr. Donnell.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Long.
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra.
Aye.
Mr. Hutter.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Hildebrand.
Aye.
Mr. Raymond.
Aye.
Ms. Foster.
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler.
Aye. Motion carries. Under other business, I'll just mention the November County Board meeting is going to be held Wednesday, November 9th, due to Election Day, is a day off here at the county.
For some.
Present company excluded. Actually, November 9th is a day off for the clerk's office, probably, right? County clerk?
No, I'll be here.
You'll be here? All right. We would miss you. October Finance Committee meeting is going to be held on October 24th. Because we're releasing the budget, it has to be a certain amount of days, it has to be viewable to the public, that's why we're bumping that back a little bit. So, is there any other new business, old business from the board? We'll start getting on that, Mr. Long, maybe we'll get a little committee together to start looking at this. I think it would be relevant.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, and we'll talk about forming that in PZA. Okay. Well, probably before then, actually, so we should come in with a good idea in PZA. Motion to adjourn, Mr. Hess? Is there a second? We'll go with Mr. Tholen. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye.